Hi, everyone. Welcome to our Maxis Health webinar today. Today, we have the pleasure of speaking with Dr. Erin Gonzalez, who is a strategic advisor to Maxis Health. Welcome, Erin. It's great to have you here. Could you just spend a couple minutes and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your background?
Absolutely. Thanks for having me today, Monique. So, I'm a child clinical psychologist. I'm a specialist in disruptive behavior and ADHD, and I have been working in the field now for about 15 years. I do a lot of clinical work. I work with families, helping them understand diagnoses and what's going on for their child. And then the bulk of the clinical work I do is supporting parents in learning strategies to manage challenging behavior and big emotions. And I also have worked in research in this area, doing studies on, again, supporting parents in helping their kids thrive with ADHD and attention problems.
Well, that's great. Thank you. With that background, I have a ton of questions for you.
Let's hear them. That's great.
Okay. Can you talk to us a little bit about parent mental health and what that does when you're interacting with your child and you may not be in the best of minds as a kid is going through a tough time?
Oh, absolutely. So, we all know that parenting is hard, whether you're a parent or not. But if you are parenting a child with challenging behavior, with difficulties of self-regulation or managing feelings or staying focused, it is much, much harder. You are having to do a lot more work than other parents are. You are having to monitor, you're having to plan ahead more, you're having to correct, you're having to think of ways to motivate them, and you're having to intervene around behavior that's disruptive or difficult. So it is immensely stressful and it can put a strain on your whole life, right? It can affect your work life and your relationships and your co-parenting, and your personal life, your ability to be able to plan fun activities. So certainly that takes a toll. We parents are human, and if your child is not thriving, it is very difficult as a parent to thrive and feel like you have the balance and the peace that you need for yourself.
Mhm.
So
And
we think of kids with disruptive behavior as kind of an at-risk population, but their parents are actually also an at-risk population due to the stress and strain that you're dealing with and the toll that can take on your personal health.
definitely, you spoke to kind of being in the moment, which I feel is really difficult as a parent, particularly when you're seeing your kids struggle. It can amplify what's going on. The impact you
Mhm.
have can be incredibly, it can go one way or the other very quickly, right?
Oh yeah,
And it can
absolutely.
be a real struggle. And I guess that's part of the reason that that I've come to Maxis Health is that I had been through some of those things in my own family, and it's a very challenging but also somewhat lonely journey to take with your kid, trying to make sure you're doing the right thing and never knowing if it's the right thing, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And it can feel very isolating when you're looking around and it seems like the other families are having an easier time of it. Why are we the one family that can't have fun at the pumpkin patch because my kid is flipping out? And, why did it look so easy for everybody else? So it can make people really question themselves and question our overall abilities, but question our skills as a parent.
Hmm.
When the truth is, you're in a different reality than everybody else, and you are having to come up with a lot more troubleshooting and problem solving. And we don't expect anybody to just naturally know how to handle really off the wall behaviors or meltdown moments. It's not something we're used to throughout our adult life. So it makes sense that using the parenting skills that people around you seem to be using often doesn't work, and that you need something different for your child. You need some extra strategizing. And that's where we can look to the research, the many decades of research that has been done on helping children with difficult behavior. And we see a lot of learnings come out of that, that parents of children with disruptive behavior deserve to have. You should have that in your hands and be able to leverage that and use that in your daily life.
Can you speak to some of those strategies, maybe some of the more common ones that you feel like you're talking through with parents, on the daily that are very handy in situations like that?
Absolutely. The first component of changing challenging patterns with your child is understanding which levers we have to use as a parent and understanding the way that we're already maybe reacting to behaviors in ways that backfire. I think the natural response for most of us as a parent when your child starts to melt down is either panic, make this stop immediately because this is going to be terrible and this is never going to get better, and spiraling far into the future, which causes us to react in kind of erratic, chaotic ways, or get really controlling and just try to demand that the situation stop. Or we fall into an anger cycle. It's incredibly frustrating, right? That we love these little people more than life itself, and we're trying to do our best by them, and it feels like it's not working. So when we fall into that anger cycle, anger is an easier emotion for lots of us than fear. So the anger cycle again leads us to sometimes fuel the fire rather than de-escalate. We end up lecturing, criticizing, yelling, making threats that we don't intend to follow through with. And sometimes it works temporarily, but it pulls us into a negative pattern with our kids. And that's not the place that most of us want to be parenting from. So it really makes sense that we're trying to teach our kids how to behave, but they're also teaching us how to react to them in ways that can feel really counterproductive. So, parents really are the most powerful and meaningful influences on their children's lives. And that's why changing behavior starts with parents, because we can not only stop problematic patterns, but we can start to use healthy strategies that bring us closer together with our child instead of driving a wedge between us and our child and making communication harder.
That whole idea of patterns that you just said just really resonates with me, and the idea of sort of shifting those patterns to get to something more healthy and sort of being present in the moment to do that. I mean, that's a really hard thing to do, right? But
Oh, yeah.
it's if you have that presence of mind and can do that, I think it can completely change the outcomes of any given, situation that you're in with a kid.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's hard when you're in the parenting 24/7 to really get that big picture view of
Yes.
what's repeating, why is this going sideways so much? Why am I so angry and so stressed all the time? This is where we can bring in technology to help us see the patterns. And when we see the patterns and we recognize that they're starting, we can make other choices to try something different and try to create a positive cycle with our child.
So that's sort of in the situation with Ori, it helps you identify those patterns and then learn new strategies based on those patterns to get a different outcome, right?
Absolutely. So Ori is leveraging a lot of different technologies, bringing it all into the mental health space here for us parents to use. So Ori is going to try to understand our parenting orientation and our goals and the main challenges we have, But then in real time, it is going to keep track of how things go for us in the tough moments. And so over time, it picks up on the patterns and can help make us more aware of the patterns. And at the same time, Ori's family coping coach is providing support and scaffolding in the moment, in these crises, to try different things and to learn with us how those different strategies might work to at least not escalate things further, but ideally help our child regulate alongside of us.
That makes sense. Can you talk a little bit about the idea of having a community within Ori? Because that to me sounded very appealing as a parent, just having other folks in a similar situation to be able to, talk to or I don't know, sometimes just complain with. Right?
Absolutely. Um, we mentioned the isolation that comes with parenting a child who has developmental differences or behavior challenges, and how lonely that can feel. It feels like you're on a different journey than your neighbors or your friend group or your school community or your family. So Ori can help bring together people who are having the same experience in different places. Yeah, we talked about how it's very isolating to parent a child with developmental differences or disruptive behavior problems. It feels like you're on a different journey than the families in your neighborhood or your school community or your family. So Ori can bring together families who are having the exact same experiences, just in different locations. So, and families that have the same goals for their child and are working on the same strategies. And we see that as a really important part of helping families manage difficult behavior, ADHD, other challenges, is knowing that this is not your personal failing. This is not that you're a bad parent and you've screwed it up. You just have a child with different needs. And we know a lot from the science about how to help with that. So a lot of times when we work with parents, we'll do it in groups anyway. If you go to a clinic, you may be in a parent group, and Ori is going to bring that experience to your home. Make it even more convenient so that you have access to that community throughout the week, not just once a week during a group, but you can bounce things off them, get that validation that you need, that I'm not the only one who has bedtime blowing up in my face and overtired children in the morning. And then also share what's working and see what's working for other families and how you might want to tweak the use of certain strategies for your specific child.
That makes total sense. I love the idea of community wrapping around all of this. What you used the term emotion coaching earlier. Can you talk a little bit about what that is and what it means for parents?
Yeah. So emotion coaching is the idea that instead of us being afraid or infuriated by our children's emotions, we're going to take that moment to tune in with them and help our children recognize what's happening for them. Our emotions are very physically based in our body, right? There's a lot of stress hormones and things that are part of that. And it's a very overwhelming experience. For us adults, sometimes it's hard to figure out how we're feeling. And now imagine for a child how overwhelming that is, to have your adrenaline pumping and to not be quite sure why you're raging out or feeling so overwhelmed. So we parents know our kids better than anyone, and we can take that moment to try to give them some language to use. I think there's an urge for us to ask our kids, how are you feeling? Why are you upset right now? But when you're overwhelmed, being peppered with questions is even more overwhelming, and they may not even have an answer for that, right? Even in their best moments, they may not have an answer. So emotion coaching is the idea that we're going to provide some language that they can use or they can reject. And we're going to stay with that moment and try to validate and make our child feel understood and seen. And that even if we don't agree or see things the same way as them, we accept that that's the reality they're having, right? So your child has a complete meltdown. I'm trying to think of one from my kids' experiences. They thought they were going to get to sit in a certain seat at the table, and then somebody else took that seat. And I feel as a parent, this is ridiculous. Come on. All the chairs are the same. Can we just move on?
Yep.
But my child is stuck. My child is not able to move on. Instead of me going into shaming mode, which is an urge to go, get it together. This is not a big deal. There's no reason for you to be this upset. I can go into emotion coaching of, it looks like you were really set on sitting in that chair. And I can imagine this is really disappointing that somebody else took your chair. I can relate. I can remember times that I had a plan and somebody made a different choice for me. It is really disappointing. And now my urge is to say, but get in that chair, move on, right? But I can just let that sit for a minute instead of trying to direct and control, right? So my child may say, I'm not disappointed, I'm mad, right? And that's great. Okay, we can work with that. You're really mad. This feels unfair. This is really frustrating. We can keep supplying them with words. And what we'll find is we're not always going to solve the original problem with emotion coaching, but it's a relief to feel like somebody understands you and sees your reality. So often this takes some of the fire out of the moment with them. I think we can all relate as adults to how good it feels to talk to somebody about a difficult thing and have them go, gosh, I'm so sorry that's happening to you. That sounds infuriating. Rather than going, well, why don't you just do X, Y, Z, right? Mm-hmm. And when our child feels understood, that opens the door for them to be ready to solve the problem together. And I can then extend that offer. Let me know if you want to work together to find a solution, or, pose to them, how would you like to handle this?
Right.
And do some problem solving with them.
So is the actual labeling of that emotion, how does that help the child? It feels like there's something there that's really meaningful in just being able to say, I'm not sad, I'm mad, right? And getting to that point, is that part of that mix as well?
Yes. So we are, through just modeling, we are teaching them emotion language in these moments so that they can start to recognize, oh, this feeling, I don't have to be scared and feel like I'm the Incredible Hulk and I'm out of control. This is what sad feels like. This is what frustrated feels like. So that as they get older and we keep doing this, they can then name it. Instead of going, you're the worst mom in the world, they can say, I'm really mad right now.
I see.
Right? Because that we can work with better than what feels like hostile or disrespectful language.
Sure.
That's the goal.
Is there a lot of research in this particular area right now going around that idea of helping them figure out what the emotions are and articulate that better?
Absolutely. The emotion coaching research actually comes from the research of Julie and John Gottman. They're very well-known researchers on couples relationships. And they're from University of Washington, and they now work with more child researchers on adapting what they've learned on what makes a healthy adult relationship to what makes a healthy parent-child relationship. There's a lot of the same core skills, and that in adult relationships, validation is so powerful, right? Even if you disagree with your partner, letting them know, okay, let me make sure I understand. Let me make sure I heard you correctly. I get why that is so upsetting. We can do that with kids, but we just have to go a little further with providing more language.
Okay.
So
But
yes, there's a lot of research about this skill.
yeah, the whole idea of just validating it, right? Is
Yeah,
we know as adults that's very comforting, right? Like,
yeah.
yes, phew, I'm not the only one. And I can imagine for children, it's, probably even more so. So,
Oh yeah. I mean, they don't get to have a lot of control in their lives, right? They most of their day is dictated by adults. So to feel really seen for your experience and that the adults are not going to steamroll you, but they're going to stop and make you feel important, that's really powerful in developing a sense of worth and self-confidence.
well, and probably a sense of trust too with the
Oh,
parent
yeah.
or caregiver that you're, most intimately going through these type of situations, right? I just think about with my child, we did develop some level of trust that I kind of knew where we were going. He knew where we were going, and I organically started to pick up on little things that he was doing that would, be keys to, okay, we got to back away from this or we got to go in this direction. But I think we built that over time. And we didn't have
Yes.
an amazing technology to help us, and all of the different types of technologies that are available today, that can help us develop these strategies and implement them and reuse them and all of that great stuff.
100%. Yeah, building trust is not we tell our child you can trust me, right? It's putting our words into action every day with how we respond to them and showing them respect and that they're valued even when they're driving us up the wall, right? We can still show them that respect and hear them out.
Sure.
That's the goal.
That's very important. Dr. Gonzalez, if you were looking into the future, knowing about the research that you're aware of now and what's going on with science, how do you see science helping parents parent better in the future?
This is a wonderful, pivotal time in research on parenting. We from the 1970s on, we had very kind of similar types of research on using parenting strategies, but now we have the technology that we can bring into it. So instead of driving to a clinic where somebody tells you how to praise your child, we have these intelligent apps like Ori that are learning in your home what's working and what's not, and then learning how to help you bring that science straight to you. So I think accessibility of parenting support is totally becoming revolutionized, but also we are going to keep learning and integrating technology more into checking in throughout the day and teaching us new skills, even not during a crisis, but teaching us new skills the way Ori does during the 2 minutes we're waiting for the microwave to finish, right? We can do this micro learning in ways that technology has found to work with our brains well. So we're going to keep learning. There will be new findings that can be brought to us in our homes immediately rather than waiting years for them to come out in scientific journals and then be eventually translated for us. It's an exciting time to work in the field, and I think a really hopeful time to be a parent and to connect the knowledge that everybody has together to just be the type of parent that we really value and want to be.
Yeah, I love your energy around this, and I'm excited to see what's going to happen with Ori and the development and the enhancement and improvements over time. It's such an exciting time to be involved in this type of initiative. And we're going to want to hear a lot more from you in the future, I think.
Great. Great. Well, that's my goal, is to share what we're learning and to try to bring these concepts to all of us who need them at home with our own kids.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Dr. Gonzalez, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. For our listeners who are interested, you can learn more about Ori at our website, which is maxishealth.com. You can also download the app through Google Play or through the Apple App Store. Thank you again for your time. Really appreciate it, Dr. Gonzalez. This was really informative, and I've learned a lot and greatly appreciate it.
My pleasure. Happy to join anytime.